So yeah, no slides, more just a, that's very loud, a chat about sort of my journey, which is not the normal one. I started in Southampton doing some research, and there was the whole normal journey of doing research, writing papers, trying to put things together for getting a PhD. And it very quickly turned out that there was a commercial aspect to this, which was something completely new and unknown to me. And I think most people in my position, that would be very new and unknown to. But if I start at the very beginning, we were engaged in a collaboration with quite a large chemical company, and they wanted us to build a really cool AI tool that would improve their speed to market, cut their costs, the same old things that we hear all the time. And we very quickly realized that instead of being able to do that for them, we would need to be able to, first of all, turn all of their proprietary data, everything that was in their lab books, everything that was in their siloed computer systems, into something that was leverageable. And I know that we're not all chemists in here, but for the chemists that are in here, it's actually very difficult to turn chemical information into something that is leverageable by a computer. We've got chemical structures. The context of what's written is probably more important than what is written. Linking things from a lab book to a report to the receipts and invoices that tell you where the chemicals came from is no small matter. So in the idea of research and still thinking, well, there's still some papers and some cool stuff to be done here, we changed our focus slightly from building the machine learning system to building the system that could bring their data together and set that platform or that sort of foundational data structure that some really cool downstream stuff could be done with. And so this was about 3.5 years ago, and we successfully scratched together some software that would allow us to do this. Turns out that there's actually, believe it or not, nothing out there that you can just buy off the shelf that will be able to deal with the sort of structure of information that you'd find in a lab book, that would then also be able to deal with the handwritten, scribbled notes, but also be able to deal with the chemical structures. So we built that. We managed to extract a load of really cool data from their proprietary databases, and we were able to build the machine learning system that enabled them to get 2 polymers that were taken forward for testing on the market. And so that's when we sort of had this genesis of this idea of, well, if it was really useful for them in an academic sense, can we commercialize this? Are other people going to need this same sort of service? And if so, where's the gap in the market? Who are our competitors? And as you can probably tell, sort of 24, 25-year-old me had absolutely no idea about any of that. Didn't know anything about commercializing research. I barely really knew how to do research at that point. So we applied to something called the ICURe program, which is the Innovation to Commercialization of University Research program. And this is run by Set Squared. It's fairly competitive to get in, and the reason for that is because they give you a ton of money to go and validate your idea. So we initially got funded, I think it's £35,000 for a 3-month project, and that was for me to jet off all around the world to validate this idea in industry. And this was the first sort of thing that made me think, this is crazy, this isn't like academia, because someone's literally paying me to just go and talk to people to see what's out there. And just as this money arrived was just really as the pandemic hit. So then I had all this money whilst making Zoom calls at my desk, which was, it was an interesting bit of accounting to see what we could do with it that was actually going to be useful for any potential future company. So the very first thing to do, I think, if you feel like you have a good bit of research that may have a commercial impact, is to go and talk to people. So I spent 3 months, and I think I talked to 145 different organizations, from law to healthcare to chemistry. Obviously, we talked to over 60 different chemical companies. And at the end of it, we put this report together where it said, actually, what is already out there in the market, the systems that are already being deployed in the market, aren't actually solving the problems that the market has within chemistry. They were being built in other markets, and that was a great thing because it validated our idea that, no, if this is useful in, say, the law sector, at least somebody's finding it useful. And at least there is some competition out there that we can either emulate or we can change the direction from what they did. So at the end of the 3 months, we'd spoken to over 60 chemical companies, as I say, and we'd found a niche. We'd found 2 potential partners, one of whom we're currently still engaged with. They are a very, very large European chemical company. And we basically leveraged that validation to then go and talk to some of the business accelerators that are at Southampton. And so our next step was to put everything together and go and talk to the Future Worlds team, which, I don't know, has anyone in here heard of Future Worlds? Yep, they're brilliant guys. So the Future Worlds Startup Accelerator is really anyone that's got an idea that is based in tech, that is highly scalable, you should go and talk to them. And they help you, they put on an entire program called the Future Worlds Founders Cohort, which takes you from, I think, 0 to kind of hero very, very quickly. And so you've done all this validation, you've found there's a gap in the market, but actually, how do you execute that? How do you leverage what you've learnt to turn your idea into a reality? And that's what the Future Worlds team helped us do. So they will take anyone from the university who has a great idea, and you can apply for a series of different things that they have on offer. I was fortunate enough to be able to get as part of their labs project, which is if you have some technology that is still in the lab, that is still very heavily research focused, but may have some potential commercial applications. They walked me through and set up a whole string of events where I could speak to technical copywriters, I could get digital assets made, I had a website made up, and I got an awful lot of exposure through some of the events that they put on. But I was also fortunate enough to get into the Future Worlds Founders Cohort. And this was a brilliant 6-month program where we had weekly training sessions and mentoring with them to set our KPIs, to get our value propositions right, to really focus our thinking around how we should be packaging this up and going to investors or going to potential clients. And they were also giving us training in how to pitch our idea and how to get it, I suppose, again, packaged in a way that would be acceptable to go and talk to the public with. And the culmination of the program is 2 parts. First was Demo Day, which is where we went on a stage in front of, I think it was like 280 people, which was this crazy event, but 100 investors there. And you have 5 minutes to pitch your idea, then I think 10 minutes to answer some questions. But again, you just get this huge amount of exposure from being part of the cohort. And then the second, sort of the actual finale of it, was going out to Silicon Valley in San Francisco. And so they took us out there for a week, and then I decided to stay there for an extra week because I had quite a lot of things set up that I wasn't going to be able to pack into that first week. And the reason they do that is, it feels like a holiday, but it's actually to change your mindset around what the art of the possible is. So I've dealt an awful lot in England and in Europe with the European investor mindset, the European commercial mindset in trying to get technology out there and trying to scale quickly. They take you out to Silicon Valley to show you that there is another path. And I would absolutely implore anybody that is thinking of commercializing some technology, don't limit yourself to Europe. Take the time, take the hit, go out to America and talk to people out there. I've come back a completely different person when it comes to what I believe is possible and sort of the journey that I believe that I should take my business in. They are much more willing to take a bet on something that might work, might not work. Basically, they're far less risk averse, but in a good way. It might seem a little bit counterintuitive and counterproductive that you would want to go and talk to people that have an appetite for more risk, but you only have to walk into some of the accelerators there and see that there are $35 billion companies that have gone through their accelerators to know that actually, these guys actually know what they're doing. So came back from there, got some really interesting calls and conversations going on at the moment about bringing on some pretty serious VC money and growing the team. We're not sure whether we're going to take that route. And this is another thing that the Future Worlds team will give you. It is support around which route you should or shouldn't take, because there are pros and cons to taking on other people's money to go and do something with. And there are, I think we've had some talks today from various funding bodies where there are, academic funding, non-equity taking funding that can help you in this regard. But again, the Future Worlds team on campus, and I don't work for them, I just really, really like them and think they're amazing. But they've helped us navigate this journey and are continuing to help us navigate what we should do with really what started as research and will hopefully become a successful business.